Hello there, welcome to another episode. Today we're reflecting on 1 Corinthians 9, verses 24 to 27. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly, I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others I myself should be disqualified. Episode 3. C is for chocolate. I can picture it now, that crumbliest, flakiest chocolate. I think that was an ad, wasn't it? I know I'm not being very helpful in talking about this good stuff when many of you may be trying to give it up and just looking forward to that prize, those eggs on Easter Sunday. Pleasure isn't wrong. That's not what St. Paul is saying here. And we know that God made all things good. But pleasure is a means to an end. It is not an end in itself. The real end is our union with God that will bring us the greatest pleasure of all. Another crucial dimension of Lent, then, is that it is a spiritual warfare. We heard this in the very first prayer that the priest read on Ash Wednesday at Mass. Grant, O Lord, that we may begin with holy fasting this campaign of Christian service, so that as we take up battle against spiritual evils, we may be armed with weapons of self-restraint. I think the word service in that prayer is the most important. Our battle is one against our own selfish desires, and the only weapons that we need are those which are filled with love, putting God and our neighbour first and not ourselves. Merely giving up chocolate or beer or wine or whatever it is we enjoy is also then not an end in itself. Rather, it should be something done with service in mind, to be paying a little less attention to ourselves and a little more to God and those who go without. This love is the weapon that Jesus used when he mounted the cross, putting the whole universe back in order by putting love of the Father and of his brothers and sisters who had fallen into sin before even the needs of his human body. In that passage to the Corinthians, Paul says that the Christian life isn't like boxing the air, just exercising for the sake of it. No, he says, I discipline my body and keep it under control. That's our translation, but in fact the word he uses is a wonderful word, doulagogo, meaning I draw my body into slavery, or better still, into service. And his service is to preach the gospel. Many of us are not particularly strong, and we can't do much in the way of fasting, if we're honest. But every single one of us is strong enough to turn away from self-indulgence and use our bodies for service. Our bodies that Jesus wants to fill with glory like his, by raising us up from the dead on the last day. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control,